In this lecture, I'm going to walk you through how to create a program and create a couple of methods. If you go on Blackboard, you'll see a starter program. It's called String IC1 Starter. This does not work as is. You have to do some programming to make this thing functional. You can start with this if you want. I am going to create a new one. So let me close everything here. And I am going to create a new class. And let's give it a name of String IC1 TG, your initials. And select public static void main. Take the default. Let's get rid of this extra work here. Really don't want to work with that. Call it string IC1 TG. Be sure to provide all the proper documentation above your class name and also right here above all your methods. Anytime you have this to do auto-generated method stuff, be sure to remove that. So let's go on and start by declaring our variables. And then problem 1 is count vowels. Okay, so here's our starter. The variables we are concerned about at this point are two integers. First one is the vowel count. The second one is the letter to find index. I want to tell my user that I'm working on problem number 1. Then I want to execute my count vowels in string method. And here's how we're going to do that. Since it is returning an integer value, we need to say int val count equals count vowels in string. And we are going to pass in our name in this case. Now, notice we have an error right here. We have this little red squiggly and the red mark over here, the red X. So if you hover, it's saying, hey, count vowels in string is undefined. So if you come back over here and hover, you notice how we have the option to fix it. And I want to fix this. An easy fix is to let Eclipse create that method. So let's go on and select that. And now the error message goes away. Okay. Eclipse creates this with private static int, and Eclipse is smart enough to see we are passing in a string. Now let's clean this up a bit. For now, we're going to change this to public, and we're going to leave it as static. We are going to return an integer. See how it sets up the return of 0? And we're going to change this to match the proper naming conventions. So this will be string source. Be sure to remove your to-do auto-generated method stub. So let's go on. Declare variables. And another thing we want to do, we want to check each character and compare to see if it is an A, E, I, O, or U. Then we can return the val count. Let's change this. I already know we want to return val count. So let's come back up here and declare this variable. Initialize it to 0. Set up a current letter. And we need an index. Okay. In order to pull this off, we need a for loop. So we're going to say int index equals 0, int index less than string source length. And let's increment our index by 1. Now remember, when we have a for loop, we obviously want to do something inside that for loop. So now let's look at our current letter equals string source and character at int index. Let's go on and convert that to uppercase. And let's go on and do a switch statement here over our current letter. Check out our code. So this is telling us we did not use this yet. Yeah, I agree. Not in the main method. And we did not use our letter to find, which we don't need that one right now. I'm going to comment that out. So I am printing problem 1, count vowels. Then we are going to execute this method, pass in our name, and count the number of vowels in our name. After we complete that, we want to print it out. Let's move this comment up here. clean up the code a little bit. And let's save all. And let's run the program. So here's our output. Let's do something else here now that we feel good about the output. You can clean this up a bit if you want. Pretty that up a little. But I want to add documentation right here. And notice how I start to type this in, and Eclipse is smart enough to fill in the blanks for me. So I am returning int val count, and I'm going to say method count vowels in string. Go on and save it, and let's run it again, see how that looks, and that's better. Let's check our code one last time. So far so good. So I do want to point a couple things out to you. If we close the console here and I just highlight this curly bracket, I go on down to the bottom of my code, I can see a square box around that ending curly bracket right there, line 55. And the same thing goes for each method. So if I look at this count vowels in string method, I can see the end of this method when I highlight this beginning bracket on line 31. I can see the end on 53, and the same thing goes for my main method. So you want to look at your brackets. This is confusing initially for students when they start coding in Java with multiple methods. So be sure each method's contained within its own set of curly brackets. And ultimately everything's enclosed in your class in a set of curly brackets. And this concludes our string example exercise. Thanks, and see you next time.